Splinter, come here. Come here. Good girl. Today I'm answering your freelance copywriting questions that you asked me on Instagram. Let's get right into it. Question number 1 is how to know when a prospect has the budget to hire you or not before reaching out. I love this, and I have to do a whole separate video on this topic. Here are some telltale signs that the client actually has budget. Let's start with if you are a solopreneur or somebody who is targeting smaller businesses. Well, how big is their team and how big is their company? So if you are targeting course creators or solopreneurs, do they have a team yet? Are they outsourcing work? That will indicate how much budget they have to hire a writer. Other than the size of the company, look at the content they're producing. So smaller companies, you want to find out, are they actually hiring people to do this writing for them? Or does it look like they just have somebody on staff who's responsible for everything? That can be a little bit hard to tell, but specifically if you're looking at influencers or solopreneurs or course creators, they might not have somebody to do the work for them. They might not be outsourcing work yet. Bigger companies, telltale signs will be a newsletter that they're putting out, consistently publishing blog posts, if they're putting out case studies, if they are putting out webinars. These are all marketing functions that they are hiring people to do. All of this will also depend on your niche. If you're in a niche like technology, software, finance, crypto, these are all companies that most likely have budget. You also want to try to understand if content marketing is a goal for them. So at the end of their blog posts, are there calls to action? Try to understand what their underlying marketing strategy is and how they are using content to reach that goal. Now, if we're talking about website copywriting, more of like the conversion copywriting, emails, social media posts, pretty much everybody has a need for that. It's just a matter of how much they're willing to invest and how much they value it. Now, one of the best ways to ensure that you're pitching clients that have a good budget is to find your clients on LinkedIn versus something like Upwork or Fiverr. I do think that Upwork and Fiverr have lower paying clients that tend to look for cheaper work. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you are looking for higher paying clients, LinkedIn will probably get you there because there's more established businesses that are on there. And that leads me to the second question I got, which is why LinkedIn? Isn't Upwork designed for freelancers only, therefore better? Okay, I think I know what you're saying. Wouldn't a freelance platform like Upwork actually be better because it's specifically designed for freelancers, whereas LinkedIn has so many other purposes? In my opinion, and I have a whole video on this that I'll link to about why I prefer LinkedIn over Upwork, but again, I just find higher quality clients are on LinkedIn. Also, there's less competition. I don't believe in market saturation when it comes to freelance copywriting, but I do believe in saturated platforms. LinkedIn is not one of them, and Upwork is. So if you really want to stand out, you either want to be cold emailing or going on LinkedIn to find clients, because I guarantee you there's not a lot of writers that are using this platform. And that's why writers are investing in my course to learn how to use LinkedIn, because it's just not being utilized. It's definitely an untapped resource. I'm non-native. What is the first step to take to become a copywriter? The first step to take if you are non-native is to make sure that all of your writing is coming across as a fluent speaker. That will probably be the number one challenge, is not making spelling errors and actually sounding like you are a native speaker, even though you're not. But look at it this way. Every single writer is going to be judged on how well they write. So your challenge and your goal is really the same as everyone else's. It's just going to be a steeper learning curve because you're trying to improve your English fluency on top of your writing skills. It's not impossible. I do have a video I'll link below on how to deal with being a non-native copywriter, but it definitely is possible. Even if it's a little bit harder, it is possible. So don't give up if that's your dream. Just understand that you might have more of a challenge than some other native writers. Someone said, how to put your foot on the neck of your competition. I haven't heard that term, put your foot on their neck. That sounds savage, but I think I understand what you're trying to say, which is that how do you stand out? Number one, you have to have a website where you actually own the domain. So a lot of writers either don't have a website at all and they link out to something that they don't own. So like, .wix, .weebly, .square, you have to actually purchase a domain to look professional. That will help you stand out. Being on LinkedIn and having an optimized profile will help you stand out. Also, just downloading my free templates for cold pitching, which I'll leave in the comments below, so that you're actually writing something that's relevant to the person you're pitching. These bad pitches and the pitches that go ignored are really a dime a dozen. There's so many pitches that just blend in with the crowd. And I'm somebody who is on the receiving end of cold pitches, and whoever is reaching out to me, if they're making my life easier by providing me value, telling me what their plan is, giving me ideas, telling me the best way to contact them, just making it really easy for me to say yes, those are the writers that I respond to. That's how you will get responses from your cold pitches. I definitely recommend you subscribe to my channel because I have a whole bunch of videos on how to structure a cold pitch and actually make that pitch stand out. How do you share work with clients so they can review before publishing? Good question. I use Google Docs, and I have a blog post writing series on my YouTube channel, and I have a whole video on Google Doc hacks. That's the best way for you and your client to collaborate. I just send them the Google Doc link, they leave comments, and then they hand it back to me via the Google Doc link, and we do the revisions that way. Google Doc is by far the best way to submit any type of writing to a client. Sometimes they have me submit it via Asana, so like the easiest thing is always going to be to send it in an email, but if they have me in their Asana board, I will leave the Google Doc link in the Asana task. Asana is just a project management software, and I'll also link down below to how you can start using Asana to cold pitch. So it says, how do I contact my clients if I live outside of the US? How do I call? I would never call a client, and that's coming from someone who used to cold call for a living. I used to be a 9-to-5 salesperson, so there is no need to call people. If you are not having any luck and you are at the point where you want to start cold calling, it probably means there's a lot of things you could be doing to improve your web presence so that your cold emails or your cold LinkedIn messages get response. I don't think calling is relevant today, especially not for us freelance writers who don't need to make a really high volume of calls and pitches. As a copywriter, do I need to specify the font size / images, or does the client? Okay, that's a good question because it can be a little bit confusing about like what you're responsible for and what the client is. Unless otherwise specified, you typically are only responsible for the words. However, I will point out in the text, hey, I'll put it in brackets and say, put an infographic here. Or I'll take my text, and if it's like a list, I'll put it in a table for them. So I try to make it as easy as possible for the client to see, hey, I think this part of the blog post should be visual. So you can give those visual cues, but I never do any type of graphic design for the clients. I am not a graphic designer. I don't do the visual aspects. I typically don't post to WordPress. That's typically something the client does. I actually don't even do SEO research. The client does that too and assigns me a brief. The most I'm responsible for is outlining the work and writing it and then linking out to internal and external links. What was the original question? Do I need to specify font size, images? Yeah, so I always format the document in like a simple font, either Arial or Roboto in Google Docs. I always do headings, so the title is going to be in title form. There's H1, H2, H2s and H1s, they break up the text, so I always format that. The client should already have preset fonts in their WordPress to be able to make it look the way they want it to look based on their brand. So I just leave it as Arial, or sometimes I'll change it to Roboto, but I do the bolds, the italics, and the headings. What is the formatting of a piece? Actually, okay, so she's asking, and what does the formatting of a piece of copy actually look like that's given to a client? I actually would love to show you guys what the copy looks like in the doc, because I feel like this is something I definitely would have wanted to see as a new copywriter who is probably so nervous about submitting work to people. So actually, let me show you that right now. Here is my Google Doc. I have it set to pageless view, which isn't 100% necessary, but it definitely helps you visualize what this is going to look like once it's in a blog format versus Google Doc, because it removes the page breaks. So if you go to File, Page Setup, you can either do Pages or Pageless. I have mine in Pages, and there's no line breaks. So this is exactly what it looks like. You can see I have the title heading, then it goes to H2 headings, little bold headings, breaking things down into steps. You'll see my links right here. I will show you, I include like screenshots of ways that other companies have shown certain things. So I'll literally usually just write a Google comment that says, have your team create a visual like this. This is another example of how I try to make it visual. I create these little boxes so that the client knows to like pull the quote out of the text, maybe blow it up, make it bigger. So to make a little table like that, you go to Insert, Table, and then you can literally create like any size table you want. And for that, I just do one single box and I copy and paste the text into that box. So that's what a blog post looks like. It's very plain and it all comes to life once the client actually publishes it. Now here is what my email sequences look like in a Google Doc. Again, I'm using that table feature. We go to Insert, Table, and then just click one box, and the box will expand based on how much text you put in that box. So you can see here, I provided the client with 2 email options. One is a shorter version. The one below is version 2. I like to give people options when it comes to shorter form content so that they could A/B test potentially. I always give them 2 subject lines, subject line A, subject line B. And as you can see, the calls to action, which is download now, for this email sequence specifically, I was promoting an ebook that I wrote for them. So I always am sure to include the calls to action. This one is download now. When they see the brackets, they know that that text needs attention, whether it be linking out or creating a graphic of some sort. I always make sure with emails that there is the ability to personalize. So all email marketing software pretty much has the ability to personalize the first name. Actually, it has the ability to personalize even more information, but typically they'll just have their first name, last name, and email. So you always want to put in brackets so that they can personalize it once they load this email into their marketing automation platform. I always make sure to break my benefits up into bullets. With copy, we want to really put things in list form and make it really easy to understand, very easy on the eyes, able to skim. So it's really that simple. It's just a Google Doc with boxes. I hope that demystifies it and takes some of the pressure off. If you like this content and you want to become a full-time freelance copywriter, definitely check out paidcopywriter.com, where you can download my free LinkedIn guide. It'll share my story about how I became a freelance copywriter from scratch, and it'll help you get started on LinkedIn, make it not seem so intimidating, and it'll help you get out there and start cold pitching freelance clients, because that really is the key to building a full-time freelance business, landing the high-paying clients, and getting to write for a living full-time. I hope this helped. Bye, guys.